And there you have it. Tottenham Hotspur's 25-26 summer transfer window has officially drawn to a close. One deal done on deadline day. Kolo Muani coming in from PSG on a straight loan. No obligation to buy, no option to buy even. Just a straight loan for the season. And that concludes our business. 4 pieces of business done in total. João Palhinha on loan, Kolo Muani on loan, and Mohamed Kudus and Xavi Simons as our 2 permanent signings. And in this video, I sort of want to talk about the mess that it took to get here, because I think that's important to sort of discuss, and I think it's an important part of why some Spurs fans are so frustrated with our transfer window. The actual signings that we made, what position that leaves our squad in heading into the season, competing across all 4 fronts on all competitions, and sort of where we are. Were we left short? Did we do enough business? What would I rate the transfer business out of 10 that we have done this summer? And we're going to get onto all of that, but I think the best place to start with is deadline day. What were we expecting before today? Because really, we were briefed in the media. You know, most of the tier 1, Spurs and non-Spurs journalists were coming out and saying Spurs were looking at a centre-half and a winger heading into deadline day. Then obviously we got the news about Dominic Solanke's injury, and we sort of pivoted. We had to go and get that maybe more versatile option, somebody who can play through the middle in Kolo Muani. And look, I'm going to talk about Kolo Muani more in a minute, but I think that's a good signing as a standalone sort of signing. And the rest, it is frustrating not getting a left winger. It is frustrating sort of how we got to this point when we needed to do quite a lot on deadline day. It's frustrating not to get that centre half as well, especially with Vuskovic going out on loan. But I also don't think that it's the end of the world. I think that our squad is in a good place. I don't think, there's any need to panic. I don't think we're in a really rough spot heading into the season. I think we're in a fairly good place, despite being left slightly short from pushing a good window to a great window, to a window that really propels us forward and leaves us not short in any area really. But let's talk about Kolo Muani, because, our only signing on deadline day, like I said, people wanted more, but I think that will sort of tint people's view on this signing as a standalone signing. And I really like Kolo Muani. Spurs have been after him for a while now. We've gone after him in the last couple of transfer windows. Obviously, it looked like we were going to get him before he then went to Juventus last summer. And was that last summer or was that in January? I can't even remember now. It seems like such a long time ago. I think that was in January before we got Matisse Tell, actually. And Kolo Muani is, a versatile forward who has lots of qualities that I think can add a lot to Tottenham Hotspur's squad. He's got great hold-up play, really good with his back to goal, is an athlete, really deceptively strong. He's got quite a sort of tall, skinny frame, but he's deceptively strong on the ball, got great technical quality too. He went into Juventus and he made an immediate impact, which I think is important as well. Last season when he went there, it just didn't quite work out for him at PSG. He's not a Luis Enrique type forward. You look at the talent they've got in those attacking areas. It just didn't work out for him, unfortunately. But he's a goal scorer as well. He's going to add goals. And I think he's a lovely option to have, and quite a different option, I think, than Richarlison and Solanke offer Tottenham Hotspur. So as a standalone signing, I'm happy with Kolo Muani. I think that a straight loan gives us time to assess him this season. Hopefully he makes an impact. And then there's no commitment. If he doesn't do well for us, then we wave goodbye next summer and we go and look at different options. If he does do well for us and we want to sign him on a permanent, I'm sure we'll be in the best position to negotiate a deal with PSG if we do want to get that. If we do want to get Kolo Muani on a permanent deal. But I do think there were frustrations with not getting a left winger. I think Spurs were really set on our targets in terms of Savinho. The Lookman deal was there for us all day, essentially. It's been there for us for over a week now. Lookman wants to leave Atalanta. The deal fell through with Inter Milan. He had been offered to Spurs. That was confirmed by multiple tier 1 sources today, that the deal was quite easy to do. There's a good relationship between all parties. Lookman had been offered to Tottenham Hotspur. Clearly we are set on Savinho being our left winger, or another option that we potentially don't know about being our left winger that we're going to go again for in January or potentially next summer. I don't think that's the worst thing, to sort of not settle for what Spurs, I guess, view as a second option or a third option in that position and potentially affect us long term in a worse way than waiting and getting our number 1 target and sort of benefiting us in the long term. The only counterpoint, I guess, to that is, how can you guarantee it's not going to be a similar mess in January or next summer? Given Tottenham Hotspur's history, we'll probably be in the same situation again next year and be saying, why didn't we just do it last year? And we left ourselves short this year. So I absolutely hear that. And I think Vuskovic going out on loan, while that's great for his personal development, I think that's the right thing to do. We've been left short in centre-half areas, which we'll look at in a minute with our squad. But those 4, if you'd said to me before the transfer window, before the James Maddison injury, before the Solanke news, before we got the updates on Kulusevski as well, if you'd said to me we would sign Xavi Simons, Mohamed Kudus, Kolo Muani and João Palhinha I would have been ecstatic with that, genuinely. I didn't think that we've been shopping in a level up to what we normally shop in this transfer window. Xavi Simons and Mohamed Kudus are two of the best signings I've seen Tottenham Hotspur make in my lifetime, and that's not an exaggeration. And they are two players who are going to elevate us immediately as soon as they step through the door. I think Kolo Muani will also elevate us. João Paulinho is a great squad option and elevates us in certain game states, like you saw against Manchester City away. Not last weekend, but the weekend beforehand. So I think those four as signings are great signings, and that, it's a good transfer window. It's not a great transfer window. That's where the left winger and the centre half, given the issues we had with injuries to James Maddison, etc., that's where we were left short, and that's why it's a good window and not a great window. But I don't want to hear anybody say. I really don't want to hear anybody saying, "Oh, it's a terrible window. We've been left so short again." Just because you can't say that with the four players that we brought through the door. Just, there's a balance to it. Yes, we were left slightly short, but yes, we also made some great signings. The problem I've got with it is the way that we got there. The problem I got with it was the process this summer, the mess of a process that Tottenham Hotspur went through to get to the stage where we signed these four players. We signed Kolo Muani on deadline day. We signed Xavi Simons, 4 days ago now, after we've been rejected by Eze, after we've gone chasing all these different targets. Savinho deal dragged on, and we got to a stage where we were panicking heading into the last day, which we never should have been. We shouldn't have been panicking and sort of scrambling around to try and find those replacements for James Maddison, who got injured not over a month ago, about a month ago now, and we sort of twiddled our thumbs, moved around lots of different targets, sort of bounced around the transfer market and left ourselves in a bit of a messy state, which is just so typical of Tottenham Hotspur. So I completely understand the frustrations in terms of process, and I think that's the bit where we need to be vocal as a fan base that is not okay, was the process with how we got here. Xavi Simons could have easily ended up at Chelsea, and this would be a completely different story, a completely different picture. We could have so easily been heading into deadline day without a number 10 signing, which would have just been complete panic stations on deadline day and would have been a complete nightmare for Tottenham Hotspur. And we almost got a little bit lucky that Chelsea had stalled on that deal for so long that we could sort of swoop in and get that signing. But look, the problem with the process is absolutely valid, and it is typical Tottenham, and that is the bit that I'm really frustrated with. But the actual signings themselves, those four are great signings. I really, really do believe that. Now, if we move on to our squad, looking at our squad at the end of this transfer window, I think that our squad is in quite a good place. I think it's in a better place than it was last season. I think there's still, obviously, the obvious areas, the left winger area. You're looking at those three options and you're thinking, one of these is going to have to step up now, at least in the next 6 months until January. But in all likelihood, for the rest of the season, one of those is going to have to step up and make that left wing spot their own, because we haven't signed that starting left winger. We've got Kudus on the right. We've got Simmons in the 10 now. Between Tel, Odeberg and Johnson, one of those is going to have to step up and make their mark, because it's all well and good rotating between three young players, etc. But that's not it's not really all well and good doing that, because all three of those, ideally you'd have one of those who steps forward, becomes the number one, has regular game time, really gets into a rhythm and contributes something great to our season. And I think that it's, I think ideally for all of their development, we should have bought in a starting left winger this summer, and one of either Odeberg or Tel was sent out on loan. I'm a little bit, confused where Tel sort of fits in, especially when we do sign that starting left winger. But look, maybe one of them steps forward and becomes that guy for us this season. But I think Johnson should have a limited impact. I think Johnson is a squad player at best in this Tottenham Hotspur side. I really, really do believe that. I think Wilson Odeberg needs to step up and start showing some ruthlessness in his game. I think he's got great fundamentals as a winger, and he's really, really good in terms of, keeping hold of the ball, taking on his man 1v1, being relentless in that way, and he works hard out of possession. But if he wants to go on and become a top winger and really become that starting left winger at Tottenham, he needs to start showing that personality and that ruthlessness that we've all been crying out for from him for a long time. And Tel, needs some more he needs to just almost become a better all-round winger. There's elements of Tel's game that I really like in terms of when he's getting in and around those areas, creating separation, getting shots off. He's a threat in and around those areas, but he just doesn't offer you enough. in terms of build-up, in terms of dropping deeper, in terms of, you know, building up the pitch, in terms of being he's not really an out-and-out left winger, and he's sort of more of an inside forward that would play sort of more in and around these areas. Obviously, he's spoken before about how he likes playing at number 9 as well, and I just think that left wing area has now just got a question mark on it, and one of them needs to step up and become that guy for us this season, despite the fact I think rotation between the three of them is, you know, not the end of the world, but I would like to see one of them step up and become the main man. Xavi Simon's in the number 10. Obviously, you've got Kudus who can play in there as well. Lots of these players across these attacking areas can play in different positions. Kolo Muani can play off the left, which is a nice option to have. Richarlison can obviously play off the left as well. Kudus can play anywhere across that three behind the striker. Then Kulusevski the same when he comes back from injury. But with Kulusevski still out injured, you know, we are looking probably about one player bare in this side. You know, I guess you can move it around like this. Kolo Muani could play left wing. Odegaard could play in the 10. You obviously got Pap Sarr, who has played in the 10 for us and will do in certain games this season. Bergvall, who can drift and play in that position as well. So we do have versatile options within our squad, and I do like it. I think sort of this double pivot area, those 5 options are strong options in that area. I really do believe that. And despite the fact we're missing, you know, sort of a deep line progressive passer that we were speaking about for so often this transfer window, and you saw that against Bournemouth, how that harmed us, I do think that there's nice options in that area and options that Frank can really work with and mould and coach into great players. You know, the young players in there, Sarr, Gray, Bergvall. I think defensively, again, we're missing that one centre-half. Having to rely on Ben Davies is frustrating heading into another season, because unfortunately I just don't think Davies is up to the level anymore. Kevin Danso I really like as a backup, but again, if you play a back 3, for example, in some games, you've got those 3 starters, and outside of that, it's looking a little bit bleak. Takai obviously we've not seen him play football yet. He's come in injured. We don't know when he's going to be back. We don't know whether he's up to the level yet or not. And it's a bit frustrating that we haven't got that that centre-half signing sorted, which is something that Tottenham Hotspur had to be way more proactive in. And we haven't signed a defender this summer, which is, you know, a little bit worrying, especially when you look at maybe a slight lack of depth at fullback as well. In terms, well, we've got great depth at fullback with the 2 starters plus 1, whoever's not playing, whoever's on the bench. But then outside of that, you're looking at Archie Gray maybe filling in at right back if one of them gets an injury, or, you know, it could get a bit messy in those fullback areas. So 100% we were left slightly short, centre half and left wing. And if we got those, if we got, say, a Lookman and then, say, an Akanji, our squad would be looking a lot stronger in terms of depth and in terms of options in those positions. But it's not the end of the world. Like I said, as long as we avoid, hopefully we get a little bit more luck with injuries this season, avoid a major injury crisis, we should be okay in terms of squad depth for this season. We've got lots of quality. You know, if you look at our best first choice starting 11, I think it's quite strong now. I really do, and I think that we can have a good go at the Premier League this season. I think we're well set up to get results in the Champions League as well, especially when you look at the style of football that we'll probably play in the Champions League, especially against those better sides, more transitional style. You saw us against PSG, against City this season. We're tough to break down, and we've got some really good players for obviously that transitional style of football. So I'm slightly frustrated, but overall quite happy with where our squad is at. I'm happy with the quality that we have bought in. Frustrated with the process that it's taken to sort of get here, and I'm going to be intrigued to see where Tottenham Hotspur go moving forward from this position. Do we go back in for Savinho in January? Is that one that happens next summer? Do we? How, you know, where are we going to be? Where are we going to be at with our squad when it comes to January, when it comes to sort of you looking again in the transfer window? Have we had injuries again? Have certain players not lived up to it in terms of, especially I'm looking at that left wing spot. If one of Tell, Odegaard or Johnson has not stepped up to become that first choice left winger, and we're still really lacking in that area, and that's something that's frustrating us, then we might have to go dip back into that area in January. And will the targets be available there? Will Ademola Lookman have moved on by then? Who knows? It'll be interesting to see. But one thing that's also important to remember with this window as well, I guess, is that heading into it, we thought that it was going to be a lot more messy, especially when Ange Postecoglou left, than it actually ended up being. We kept Romero, tying him down to a new long-term contract, you know, even getting Thomas Franklin in the first place, right? Making Romero our captain as well, him signing a new long-term deal till 2029. That was a huge piece of business for the squad as well, and that is something that can't be forgotten about. But, you know, a negative as well that we kind of have to talk about is the outgoings. We still haven't got Basuma offloaded. Solomon is still at the club. He still hasn't been offloaded. Brian Hill, to be fair to Spurs, we've finally offloaded him today on deadline day for I think we got £8.6 million for him, which, you know, honestly, I'm taking at this point. I thought that we were just going to have to terminate his contract and lose him on a free, but getting any sort of money for him is great. But again, our outgoings have just been not been enough. We've not sold anyone, a Bissouma, a Davies, whoever, to then go and bring in that quality in that position that maybe we were missing. So that is another mark against the transfer window. I think overall, the transfer window, I would give a 7.5 out of 10. I don't think I can push any higher on that because of the sales and what we missed out on. But the quality of player that we bought in, Simons, you know, Kudus, Paulinho, and Kolo Muani, I think that's enough to be positive about, if you know what I mean. So I think I'll go 7.5 out of 10 for our transfer window overall with how it all transpired and the situation we are in now. Let me know what you'd rate it out of 10 in the comment section down below as well. That's where our squad is at. Let me know in the comment section sort of how you feel about our transfer window, how you feel about the process, how you feel about the players that we bought in, where you think we could have lacked, a player that you think we've missed out on this summer that we should have been a lot more active for. But that's the transfer window done and dusted. I'm kind of relieved it's over, to be honest with you. The transfer window is just always seems to drag on and on and on, and we're into the season now, and I sort of just want to focus on the squad that we've got, the signings we made, and attack this season. And Thomas Frank, you know, I trust in him, I believe in him, and I think that, again, he'll probably be a little bit frustrated to be left slightly short, but at the same time, I think he's got a lot of quality to work with there, and barring a major injury crisis, we should be all right this season. But, I mean, it's Tottenham Hotspur, so we probably will get a major injury crisis, and we'll be talking about, you know, where we were left short. So yeah, there you go. But let me know in the comment section how you feel about it all. Like and subscribe if you are new around here, and yeah, nice one.